Hey, this is Andy Tube, and you're watching my series of a single model 404 restoration. And this video is part of the mini-series all about tension. And it's video 14E, E as in excited, to get this tension unit built back together. Now some people build it on the bench or their work table, but I like to actually build it right onto the machine. It just seems easier for me to do it that way. So take a look at this, and there's a lot of other videos on YouTube, and you can decide which method that you like to use. The important thing is that you just learn about tension and you're comfortable with it. It's not a puzzle to you anymore. It's something that you can take care of yourself. So in the essence of time, I mounted the two thread guides already on here with the little single screw. So the upper thread guide goes on to the machine first, and then the smaller, more horizontal one goes on top of it, and the screw goes through them both into the machine. And next I will back off the little tension stud set screw right there. I shouldn't say little, it's the longest set screw on the machine, remember? And I'll put the stud in, and I want to bottom it out in there. I want to put it in as far as it will
Hey guys,
go.
I got to jump into the video here for a moment to make a correction or add some information. It's about the tension releasing pin. It looks like, the part that looks like a little nail, and it's got that flanged tip on it. I am in the habit, after I clean the tension assembly parts, that I just put that pin back into the tension stud, and the flange part would face you, or the front, and I put it in there just because I'm less likely to lose track of it then. So in the video, when I pick up the stud and put it in, I already had that tension releasing pin in there. And I mentioned this later in the video, but after just watching the video, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm real clear enough, because I've already started putting parts on. So that pin goes in the stud before any other parts go onto the stud is the best way to do it. And if you prefer, you can mount the stud first. Let me get this over here a little bit, and if you like, you can go ahead and mount the stud and tighten the tension stud set screw over here on the face, and then you can slide that pin in, keeping that flanged end towards you. You can slide that in the hole in the center of the stud, and then I usually just push it back in there with my little tension screwdriver or toothpick or barbecue stick or something like that. So how you do it is up to you, but I wanted to clarify that tension releasing pin goes into the stud before you start putting on the tension discs and that kind of stuff. So sorry for the discombobulation, and I'll let you get back to the original video. Thanks. And I want to make the slot on it horizontal. I want it to be as near as horizontal as you can get it in there. So I usually line it up where I want it. Just hold it in with my thumb while I tighten up that set screw. And I snug it up pretty good right now. I don't finalize it in case I want to take it off later for the tension adjustment, but it's in there very firm. So Okay, then we just have to start building the pieces back on. So let me rearrange this a little bit and then we'll do that. Okay, so now that we have our tension stud in there and we've got our thread guides, we're going to make a little assembly of parts here to put on the machine next. And it's going to be the three tension discs in any order, in any position, front to back. Doesn't matter. You can shuffle them up, and some machines, some of the discs are curved, and it makes a difference. But on this, they're flat, and it doesn't matter. And then over those, I'm going to put the tension, this little thread guard with the post up, so it can go in the hole up here. But before I put these four parts on the machine, I got to put my tension check spring on there. So the coil goes towards the machine here, and the loop goes around the discs with the little loop in the front. And when you put this on, what you want to try and do is get the spring, because remember the spring tail? It's going to go in one of these slots down here. And what you want to try and do is get it so that the tail hangs parallel to the ground. And the tip of the tail, of course, can curve in. But I'm talking about the loop itself. Just imagine a line from that hole to here and going down, and try and get your spring in there with that loop like that. That's usually a really good starting point. So with that in mind, I'm just going to slip all these parts on here. I'm going to make sure my little loop goes around the stud and not one edge into the stud. And then before I push it too far back, I'm going to line up that spring so it's kind of parallel. And then I got to get this post inside the hole while I gently push it all in. So that came out pretty good. Let me make sure I'm still in the camera here. Yeah. So my spring is hanging parallel, and these pieces are all on the post now. And I think I can get a little closer even here. There. Okay. That looks good. So we keeping these pushed back. But by the way, my tension releasing pin was inside of here when I put that post on. And to double check, it has to be, right? So to double check that, I'm going to raise and lower my presser foot and see if I get any pushback from that pin. Yep, there it goes. Can you see it pushing my screwdriver out? Yeah. So the presser foot should be down while you're doing the assembly here. Next, I'm going to put my indicator on, the plus minus, with the opening towards me. Now I've got something for that pin to push on. Yep. Okay. Then I'm going to take my tension spring or beehive spring and the little half coil. I put the half coil down. You get it on there, and that horizontal part goes right into
the tension stud there, and that's to keep it from twisting, just like this keeps from twisting. Then I'm going to put my stop washer, and this stop washer is a straight up pin. In the 301s, the 401, 403, 404, 500, 503, sometimes this pin is curved, like a little crooked finger sticking out. And if you happen to have a tension unit that's got a curved pin or curved finger, have the tip of it point towards you, not curving back towards the machine, but curving out. And no matter what kind of washer you have, that pin or post goes up like that. Okay, then we're going to take our little tension indicator flange adapter, that threaded inside and out thing with the flange, and we're going to screw it on right now. And since we did our little minor repair on this and realigned the spacing on the tension stud, it should go on good, and it should turn easier. Yeah, it was very stiff to turn before. Now there's resistance, but that's good because I don't want the tension to change once I set it. Now, this is where we've got to do the preliminary setting of the tension. So I have my arm cover, and I'm just going to set it back up here just to have something to put a spool of thread on. I'm not going to screw it in. I have my spool of thread, and I'll run it up through the arm cover top thread guide, and I'm going to put my release lever up, and I'm going to put my thread right through, and well, let's see, I guess I should bring up this check spring here, huh? I should have brought that up before. Usually I'll bring that up before I'll put the indicator on. But can you see what I did? I just brought it up with my finger, and I brought it up the rest. The little point that's built onto the thread guide is called the rest, the spring rest. So I've got it up there. So I'll just continue threading this, bring it up, thread it like it says in the manual, and bring it up to here. And now I'll put my presser foot down, and I'll have be ready to adjust it for tension. So I'm going to show you how to do the first adjustment for the tension. And now most of these singers of this era and later use between 5 and 15 grams of pressure when the tension is set between 0 and 1. It really kind of should be 0 grams at 0 tension, but halfway, say between 0 and 1, it should be picking up, they say 5 to 15 grams. And I have a little tensometer, it's called, where I can clamp on the thread, and it's got this cool little weight, and as I pull it up, this little arrow over here starts indicating how many grams
On the other side it's ounces. And I did without this for a number of years, but I picked it up because at the featherweight shop, I think it was like $7. So I said, oh, okay, what the heck. It's a tool. I can justify a tool. So I'm going to show you to use this, but I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't have this too. Okay. So I'm going to be clipping this on, but I'm going to have to raise it up here, and it may go out of your vision. You know, it may go up above the. Well, maybe I'll back out here and give you more of a view. Yeah, it's probably going to go out of your vision, but that's what I'm doing. I'm clipping the thread right there, and as tension starts coming, it starts tilting, and the grams of pressure will register here. So I'm going to try and set it on 15 grams. So remember now, you've threaded the tension just like you were going to sew up to this point, and the presser foot is down, and so right there I have a little tiny bit of tension. But the way you start getting tension is start adjusting that nut. So I start pulling and turning that nut, and whoops, I went too far. I'm about 22 now. So I'm going to back the nut to the left while I'm still pulling, and 14, 16, pretty steady at 15 right there. So that's according to the factory specifications in the 401 manual and many others. Some of the black machines and like the featherweight, it's more tension than that. But do you see the check spring while I'm pulling up the thread? You see how it starts lifting? So I used to just do it by eyeball. I would just take the thread and pull it, and you see the thread's coming out and the check spring is still at an angle to the left, and I'd pull it until the check spring came straight up before the thread moved. Ta-da! So in the old days I would have just adjusted it like that. And let me go back now and see what this tension is. I've never done this, so I'm just curious how far off I was. So that is about 35. So that's like double what they recommend. And you know what? This is a 404 straight stitch, so I'm going to leave it right there. Now, if you were doing a 401 or a 403 or a zigzag machine, I would try and get it closer to the 15. I would adjust it so let me loosen this. So as soon as this came up and the thread started moving like that, I'd say I'm done. On the straight stitch, I go until the spring loop is straight up before the thread starts sneaking through. Now that's a little too tight. There. See, no thread, no thread, no thread. Now just as it comes straight up, the thread starts sneaking through. But I would do it lighter than that on a zigzag, because if you're going to do buttonholes or satin stitch or embroidery or wide zigzag, you need less and less tension. You can't do that on this machine. This is a straight stitch machine, and I want the possibility maybe for more tension. The person might be sewing duck cloth and garment leather and nylon webbing and harder stuff, and they want more tension on a big heavier thread with a top stitch needle and everything. And I I don't need 15 grams because I'm not going to do any zigzag. So I hope that makes sense. Right? Zigzag machine, when it just starts thread slipping through here, when it's about halfway up, that's about 15 grams. On a straight stitch machine, let the hook come almost up straight before straight like that before the thread starts slipping through. Okay, now that's what's called kind of setting it to 0, although this is a little tighter than 0, but that's what the factory called it, setting it. So the next thing that goes on here is the flange. This adjuster, you got it all adjusted, but it looks kind of ugly and you need the numbers. So put the flange up there, and this is where I showed you in the other video, there's a post up there on the inside, and that it's behind the 0. So put this on at about 2 because you want that post to the right of the pin. You want it to the right of the pin. So put it on about 2. I have my thumb nut, and I already put the little bitty tiny set screw in there. So just the way this indicator back there went with the opening towards me, this thumb nut is going to go with the opening towards me. And to keep my setting and stuff, I'm going to push all of these plates back, and I'm going to screw on that until it snugs up against all the plates. Okay? So basically I'm set at 0. Even though I have the presser foot down, my discs are open here, and my thread's pretty loose. It's the way I want it anyway. So then I would just put the cap on. Right, this is snugged up here. Is everything? Yep, it's pushed back. And I snugged this up without turning anything, just tightened it up against this. So I'm going to just put the cap on there now. So the cap is kind of cool looking, I think. I like it. Get that industrial looking and triple plated chrome. But it also, when you tighten up that little set screw on there, that's what keeps pressure on the plate when you turn the knob. So if I turn it to 0 now, see, look at that. Ooh boy, I just have barely. And if I turn it to about less than 1, I'm starting to pick up a little more tension. If I go to 1, if I go to 2, 3, 4, 5, it's getting harder and harder to pull that thread through. 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And the way I usually set these, I try and set the straight stitch machines so they stitch between the number 3 and 4 is a good starting point. That's usually how I set them up. But look, you just saw how to do this. So if you don't like the tension that I started with, then redo it and set the tension stronger or lighter for how you like. Right? Right. So if you wanted to change this, you put pressure down, right? Turn it to 0, You say, oh no, that's too loose, or oh no, that's too tight. Then take your set screw and back it off. Sorry, I'm blocking you, I know. Take it off, or loosen it, don't lose it. Hold those plates back there and take the ring and the thumb nut off of that adjusting flange. Alright, you just saw me put them on, now you saw me take them off. Okay, take the indicator flange off, and you're right back here to where you can adjust. So the foot down, you say, oh no, that's not enough tension, I want a little more. Then you turn that adjusting flange a little bit more. You say, oh yeah, that's better. Okay, I like that. Alright. Then you put the number flange back on with the 0 to the right of the pin. So everybody just puts it at around 2, you know. And then get your thumb nut started on that flange. Come on, you. And then there we go. Then hold this back. Hold that back in there. So it's all set to the back. And then tighten this up to that point. Just so that it butts up against it. Just so it snugs up against it. There we go. Okay. Then you put your cap back in. And then you tighten up your set screw to hold the cap, and that way you also hold your adjustment position when you change it. And then we'll go to 0, and that's your 0 tension right there. And then you can go like a 3, oh yeah, a lot more tension, 4, 5, 6, heavier thread, yep, there you go. So you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. After you clean it and inspect it and do any repairs or replace any broken parts, it's all beautiful and shiny, and put it back on and, you know, just give it your best shot for that adjustment. And then you're going to do some test sewing on it, and then you say, man, to get the tension I like, I really have to crank it up around 6 or 7 just for normal sewing. I set that original tension too loose. So take these parts off and adjust the tension so it's a little firmer. Put it back together and then test and say, oh yeah, now I'm sewing about 4. Okay, I like that. I like that. So it's strictly up to you. If you have a zigzag machine and you set it to a low tension and you're doing your zigzag or satin stitch, monogramming, applique, and you're like, man, it's too much tension, it's puckering my stitch, it's puckering my fabrics, just take this off and, you know, adjust it, lighten up the tension a little bit, 1/8 of a turn or 1/4 of a turn, put it back, try it out. Okay, perfect. It's that easy, and you can do it. And I mean, in the old days, man, when tension was off, oh, you got to take it to the singer store, got to take it to the repair shop. And I understand that, but most repair shops you go in these days, they're going to say, oh, this machine, it's so old, they can't get parts, and you know, I'll give you $50 for it, and come over here and buy this new $600, $800, $1,200, you know, $2,000 machine. And you got to get way up in the price to get a machine of this quality. When this machine was in the 50s, in today's dollars, it would be about $2,000, in that range. That's the kind of machine. And you can pick them up. Even fully restored ones like this will cost you way less than that. You know, and you can find these around. And to me, the 404 is one of the unsung You know, everybody, the 401 is the Cadillac. Okay, great. 403, beautiful machine. 503, great. But 221, 301, the 404 was the next generation. From the 221, they went to the 301 straight stitch and this 404, and they were quite proud of it. And when they published it and put it out, it was the best straight stitch sewing machine ever made, in their opinion. Of course, they're the manufacturer. So anyway, that's the end of this video. We've taken it apart, we've cleaned it and inspected it, and done some little rust removal and some minor repairs and stuff. I'm happy with that check spring tension, but when I go to set the stroke at the final adjustments, that'll be the acid test for the existing spring. But even if I have to change it to the new one, you see how easy it is. You can do this. You can do this. Thanks for watching. Take care.